Picture this. You fire up a BMW F80 M3 on a crisp morning. The engine growls to life, the whole car shivers with anticipation, and you realize you're not just in any 3 Series, you're in a street legal track weapon that also happens to be a family sedan. The F80 M3 and its coupe sibling, the F82 M4, represent BMW's first turbocharged M3 generation. These absolute units ditched the high-revving V8 of the previous gen for a twin-turbo straight 6, and trust me, they did not lose their edge. In fact, they gained a whole new persona: savage torque, immense tuning potential, and an attitude that says, "I dare you," every time you prod the throttle. If you're an enthusiast wondering why you should or maybe shouldn't buy an F80 M3 or M4, buckle up. We are going to take a look at everything that makes this machine a legend. From power, handling, to modifying it, what's wrong with it, and yes, of course, wheels, tires, suspension, and the overall stance. So we're going to start under the hood, and there lies a monster, the S55 3-liter twin-turbo inline-6 engine. Don't be fooled by the smaller displacement compared to the old V8. Those turbos turn it into an absolute powerhouse. From the factory, we're looking at 425 horsepower and 406 foot-pounds of torque in the base model, making it the most potent M3 up to its release. That's enough grunt to launch you from 0 to 60 as quick as 3.9 seconds with the lightning-fast dual-clutch transmission, or about 4.1 seconds if you want to row your own gears in the manual. That is supercar territory for its time for a 4-door sedan. Oh yeah, and of course BMW kept the manual alive in this generation, offering a 6-speed stick for the purists alongside the 7-speed DCT for people who valued going fast more than connection to the car. 3 pedals and a high-tech turbo M car? Yeah, we'll definitely take one. Now, being the first turbocharged M3, the F80 faced big expectations and it delivered big results. Compared to the previous E90, E92 M3's 4-liter V8, the S55 not only matched its peak horsepower, but actually exceeded it, especially with later models and the optional competition package available from 2016 onward, which bumped output to 444 horsepower. This same package also sharpened throttle response and even tweaked the exhaust for more drama. And if you are lucky enough to find an M3 CS for human prices, that limited edition made 453 horsepower and 443 foot-pounds of torque, more than enough to pin you to the seat and put a giant grin on your face. In short, the F80's engine is ferocious. It pulls like a freight train from just 2,000 RPM thanks to twin turbos delivering a tidal wave of mid-range torque. Want to overtake traffic? One tiny flex of your right foot and you are gone, hurled forward by an effortless surge that feels like a much larger engine is at work here. Now, let's address the elephant in the room: the sound. The older M3s were naturally aspirated screamers, the E46's straight 6 wail, the E92's high-revving V8 roar, and some purists were not thrilled about turbos muffling that iconic noise. It's true, the S55 doesn't have the high-pitched race car song of the V8. Instead, it's got a deeper, raspy growl with a pair of turbochargers whooshing and hissing underneath the hood. BMW even used their active sound design, ASD, to pipe in augmented engine sounds through the speakers. So yeah, some of the engine noise you hear in the cabin of an F80 is artificially amplified. It's essentially fake noise fed through a dedicated audio channel. Now, purists might clutch their pearls at that, but here's the good news. If you don't like it, you can just disable it. It's a coding tweak or pulling a fuse, and you'll have plenty of real sound to enjoy, especially if you swap over to an aftermarket exhaust and some intakes. In stock form, the M3 is a little bit subdued, but when you go over to something like an M Performance or an Akrapovic exhaust, the S55 snarls, cracks, and pops like the angry beast it truly is. And let's be honest here, the turbo sounds, the whistle, the blow-off valve, it's a new kind of thrill in an M car. It's like having a tiny orchestra of angry cyborg bees under the hood in the best way possible. Ryder, what are you talking about? Critically, the move to turbo power was not just for bragging rights, it unlocked insane tuning potential. This engine is basically a playground for horsepower junkies. You can go with an ECU tune, think something like boot mod or MHD, and some downpipes, and you're over 500 horsepower in your F80, all without even touching the turbos, internal engine bits, anything serious. We've seen many owners do something basically like intake, downpipe, and tune, and daily drive the car. If you want to go further, the S55 can of course handle even more with supporting modifications. You can go with an E85 blend, which is super common on these turbo cars. You can go with upgraded charge pipes, intakes, etc., etc., and you're knocking on the door of 600 wheel horsepower. We don't want to bore you guys with just the mod path. It's a turbo car, it's very easy, and a lot of BMW companies have like stages for these things. You can obviously go bigger turbo, you can go with port injection, and you can build the motor and you can start to make over 700 horsepower. Generally, these things are good for 550 to 600 on the stock bottom end, and so that's where most people stay. Now, of course, this is all supercar slaying territory, all from the cabin of your humble BMW sedan. Pushing those numbers does mean you need to address some weak links. We're going to talk more about these in the common issues section, but the point is the F80 M3 and M4 give you a heck of a platform if you're the type who just can't leave well enough alone. It's like BMW handed you a Boost Addict's dream. Here's a car that's already stupid fast. Now go ahead and just make it faster if you're so inclined. It's hard to argue with that, right? Now, all that power would be pointless if the M3 and M4 couldn't handle, but fear not, this chassis is dialed in to make you feel like a hero on both road and track. The F80 generation was built on the lighter, stiffer bones of the F33 series chassis, and BMW's engineers, of course, added their secret sauce. You have a wider track width, beefier bracing, and some cool suspension bits. Now, fun fact, the F80 M3's body is about 80 millimeters wider than a standard 3 Series sedan, but those flared fenders are not just for looks. They actually house a much wider and more aggressive wheel and tire package to increase track width. The F80 is as wide and as planted as it looks. In fact, the sedan ended up just as wide as the coupe. BMW gave the M3 and M4 identical track widths, compensating the four doors extra 23 kilograms of weight with minor suspension tweaks so they handle virtually the same. So whether you choose M3 or M4, you're getting the same go-kart on rails style of handling with a side of Bavarian balance. On a twisty road, the M3 is an absolute riot. The steering is electrically assisted, first for an M3, meaning it's not as dynamic and responsive as the E92's hydraulic setup, but it's precise and it's quick. You point, it goes. The front end bites hard, the car changes direction eagerly, and the active M differential in the rear works overtime to manage traction. This is a car that does love to oversteer, so hit the throttle coming out of a corner and the rear end steps out just enough to remind you that you're driving a rear-wheel drive 224-inch tire shredding machine, figuratively. It's playful, but it's also composed. In fact, one of the F80's great tricks is how well it blends discipline with hooliganism. Leave the traction control on and it grips and goes with impressive German efficiency. Loosen the nanny controls or switch to M dynamic mode, and it will wag the tail and power slide all day with a big grin on its face and, of course, yours. The balance is superb for a car of its size. The carbon roof and aluminum body panels help keep weight down around 3,500 pounds, which is pretty trim by modern standards, especially for a BMW with all kinds of luxury bits. It's about 150 pounds lighter than the previous gen, so you do feel that agility. And BMW gave the F80 and F82 a highly adjustable driving experience as well. You've got modes for pretty much everything. Steering feel, suspension stiffness, throttle response, transmission ferocity, all toggled by those little buttons and the preset switches on the steering wheel. In comfort mode, the car is compliant enough for daily commutes or to let your wife drive it when you're driving your race car. It soaks up bumps better than you'd expect from a track-focused machine. In Sport or Sport Plus, it hunkers down, the suspension firms up, the steering gains some weight, and the car transforms into a razor-sharp instrument ready to hit the track. If you opt for the adaptive M suspension, which many cars have and you probably want if you're not going aftermarket, the dampers do adjust to keep the car stable and planted through hard corners, yet are reasonably compliant on the highway. This is not an S-Class, but it's pretty darn good for what it is. The F80, on a challenging back road, feels immensely capable. There's minimal body roll. The brakes, especially the optional carbon ceramics, which do limit your wheel choices, are stellar, and the overall composure is just top-notch. In one test, the M3 handedly outdid its peers, the Audi RS4, which felt heavy and numb in comparison, and while the C63 was more of a tire-smoking hot rod, it couldn't match the M3's precision when the road got a little twisty. So what's your takeaway here? Well, the F80 M3 gives you the confidence to attack corners hard. It's the kind of car that flatters the driver, making you, well, just look a little bit better than you probably are. Don't worry, we're not gonna tell anyone. Now, don't confuse composed with sterile. The M3 still knows how to party. Turn off traction control and you can drift this thing until the rear tires beg for mercy. And there's a billion videos out on YouTube of people just ripping these things. It's almost too easy to break that rear end loose. You can blame it on the torque of the S55, and many an F80 has been caught on camera leaving their cars in coffee with a smoky power slide. Some graceful, some ending, let's call it Mustang mode. The point is, the car has a wild side. The active rear diff can fully lock when needed, effectively turning the rear tires into a pair of ice skates. Yet the car does not bite too hard. It's predictable when you're sliding. It's easy to catch, thanks in part to a longer wheelbase than previous M cars. And if you're into track days or autocross, the F80 won't disappoint there either. With good rubber, it posts some serious lap times straight out of the box. The chassis can handle track abuse, especially with some mild prep. You're gonna wanna do brake pads, you're gonna wanna do fluids, you're gonna wanna probably do some little suspension odds and ends. Out of the box, the standard steel brakes are pretty good. Some reviewers on this car even went as far as to praise zero fade on track with stock pads, but these cars are older, so that's probably not the case anymore. And the carbon ceramics, if equipped, are fade-free monsters that belong on a supercar. Just remember, ceramics cost a fortune to replace. Price out the rotors. Editor, put them on screen. So factor that in if you're buying used. A set of OEM carbon rotors can literally cost as much as a used Honda Civic. Now, we're talking handling, so let's slide right in to suspension upgrades. Because if you're gonna buy one, you're probably gonna modify it if you're watching one of our videos. The stock suspension's great, but maybe you wanna go lower. You wanna go stiffer. Or you just want to go newer because those OEM shocks from 2015 are probably a little tired by now. The aftermarket's massive, and popular options include coilover kits from brands like KW, Bilstein, Öhlins, or on a budget you can go BC Racing or D2. A quality set of coilovers allows you to drop the ride height, which is perfect for eliminating wheel gap and getting that menacing stance that you want out of your M3. And you can adjust the dampening to your liking. More about that stance life and less about lap times. There are tons of air suspension kits for these cars. Yes, bagged M3s are a thing, and yes, they look super cool, and you kind of ruin the way the car feels, but I don't know, y'all are gonna do it anyway, right? Airlift Performance makes a bolt-on air ride kit for the F80 and F82, giving you the best of both worlds. You're slammed when you're parked, it's practical when you're driving, it handles okay. On the flip side, if you're chasing tenths on a track, you'll find club racers equipping MCS or JRZ coilovers, spherical bushings, and other hardcore bits to tighten everything up. The beauty is that the F8X platform, referring to the F80 and F82, responds really well to suspension mods. You can make it a comfortable cruiser, you can make it a track scalpel, you can make it something in between. Really on these cars, all you're gonna need to do is just throw a good set of coilovers on. I wouldn't cheap out, I would just get KW V3s. One thing you'll notice when you drive an F80 is the ride is pretty stiff on bad roads, especially if the car is lowered on springs or has the suspension in Sport Plus or is just kind of older without suspension maintenance. Owners do complain that potholes are the bane of their existence, which is no surprise with low-profile tires and a pretty tight chassis, but that's kind of just the trade-off to having a razor-sharp sports car. If you're going to daily it in a place with rough roads, you probably do want to upgrade the suspension. A better performing coilover setup, oddly enough, can actually improve ride quality. You can go with something like a KW sleeve kit that retains the adaptive shocks but does drop the car about 1 inch. It keeps a near stock ride while upping the style. Others, and guys, it's a sports car. Like, it's not gonna ride like an S-Class, so just put the coilovers on. Either way, the F80 will never be a couch on wheels. It's an M car. It's meant to be firm. It's meant to be communicative. But does it ever reward you in the corners for that suffering with discomfort? Let's take a moment now to appreciate the aesthetics of this car. The F80 and F82 are just damn good looking cars. BMW nailed the design. I'd argue they're probably the best looking M3. They have aggressively flared wheel arches. They have huge air intakes up front, a carbon roof, and quad exhaust, which are kind of center exit tips in the back, letting everyone know this ain't your run-of-the-mill BMW. The M3 sedan in particular has this kind of like muscle car meets luxury suit vibe. It's broad and mean, especially from the rear, where the swollen fenders give it a stance like a panther on the prowl. In fact, many enthusiasts actually prefer the M3's look from the rear 3/4 angle. The extra doors somehow make it look even wider and more purposeful. One funny enough Reddit comment said the M3 looks better from the rear with the wide flares, but the M4 blows it away in every other angle. Whether you agree or not, there's no denying that the M4 coupe is a little more sleek and sexy and modern with that sloping roofline and pillarless doors. It's the athlete in a tracksuit to the M3's tailored tuxedo with bulging muscles underneath. Think like Ronnie Coleman in a suit, right? Personal tastes vary, but you really can't go wrong. Both have presents for days. Pull up to a meet or Cars and Coffee in an F80, and you'll get respect nods from those in the know. It's a car that commands attention without being overly flashy, unless you opt for a super loud color. Speaking of which, the color palette was fantastic. Yasmarina Blue, a bright baby blue named after the F1 circuit, became pretty much the signature color for the M3, and it's almost a crime not to mention Austin Yellow and eye-searing gold green on the M4. Yuck, by the way. If you like Austin Yellow, I can't help you. I can't, guys, I'm sorry. You've got classics, of course, like Alpine White, Sapphire Black, Mineral Gray, and you, of course, have individual colors. Technoviolet, anyone? Inside, the F80 provides a familiar BMW driver-focused cockpit with some unique M touches. You've got fantastic sport seats with thick side bolsters that hug you tight in hard corners, yet remain comfortable on road trips. The driving position is spot on and everything you need is within reach. BMW knows how to make a car fit like a glove. Being based on the 3 Series, the interior design is not that wildly different from a normal 3 Series at the time, but you do get some carbon trim, which is M specific. You get an instrument cluster with the M logos all over it, and you get the cool illuminated M logo on the seat backs in the later models. One fun quirk, the F80 has a traditional handbrake lever, not an electronic parking brake, which we know why you put that in there, BMW.
Full speed, and then handbrake, drift, okay?
Lovely.
Enthusiasts rejoice, you can still yank a proper handbrake if needed, but you kind of can just power over in this car too. It was one of the last M cars to have that. The new ones have electronic parking brakes. Also, because it's a product of the mid-2010s, you get actual physical buttons. Thank you. For many functions, and iDrive infotainment that, while not the latest gen, is still fine and easy to use. iDrive sucks, in my opinion, compared to what Mercedes and Audi offer, but there you go. Practicality-wise, the M3 can actually fit 4 adults in it, and 4 doors make life easier if you have friends, family, or a dog. The M4's rear seat is tighter. There's only 2 seat belts in the back versus 3 in the sedan, and getting in there requires some gymnastics, but it's fine for occasional use, or if you've got kids, if you have adult friends, do not stick them in the back of your M4. The trunk is fine for a weekend's luggage, or you can probably stick 2 rear tires in there, but it's not going to win any awards for trunk space. Let's not forget all the M performance parts and the visual mods that can accentuate the look. BMW, of course, offered a bunch from the factory: a carbon fiber front splitter, carbon mirror caps, a larger spoiler, and a rear diffuser that makes the back end look even more aggressive, which somehow is possible because it looks pretty good out of the box. Many of the used M3, M4s on the market will have some of these pieces installed because, frankly, they look awesome, and at some point over the years, someone saw it and was like, hey, yeah, we should probably do that, right? And if not, the aftermarket has every option under the sun: front lip spoilers, side skirts, diffusers, hood, fender upgrades. Some folks even fit the M4 GTS style hood with a vent or CS style parts. You can really customize this car and make it your own, and the parts are not that expensive for it being an M car. You can really transform the look of it. But what's the best way to do that? Wheels and fitment. Wonder why the guys that sell wheels will tell you that's the best way to make the car look good. Anyway, few things can make your car pop like the right set of wheels and the perfect stance. Given that our ultimate goal here, aside from entertaining you, is to get you excited about customizing your F80 M3 and M4 and get you to buy some wheels from our website, right? We'd be remiss not to dive deep into wheels and tires. The F80 comes stock with either 18s or 19s. Some of the comps do have 20s, as do the CS models. We're going to kind of ignore those though. Stock sizes were typically a 19.9 in the front and 19.10 in the rear, with a staggered tire setup, meaning wider in the back to help put down all that power. But when it comes to aftermarket, the sky is really the limit. Do you want a track-ready square set of 18s? Do you want an aggressive staggered stance? Do you want some show car, big boy wheels with huge lips on them? This chassis really kind of can just do it all. For a lot of owners, 19s hit the sweet spot between performance and style, maintaining some semblance of sidewall for ride and grip, but giving that filled out wheel arch look. A super popular flush fitment for a street-driven F80 is around a 19 by 9.5 with a 22 offset and a 19 by 11 with a 44 out back. In simpler terms, roughly a 9.5 up front, roughly an 11 out back, with a lower offset in the front and a higher offset in the rear. These sit nearly flush with fenders, and this gives you a nice stance without needing to cut anything or shave anything or run crazy camber or roll the fenders, anything like that. You're going to want to throw two 55-35s up front and two 75-35s out back. You can even go a little bit bigger, but you might have to do some clearancing stuff. And you've got just a really nice setup that looks aggressive, performs well, hooks up from a dig. The M3, M4's big fenders can actually accommodate even wider. You can go 285 or 295 in the rear for extra traction, especially if the car is tuned for more power. But the wider you go, guys, the more aggressive you go, the more you have to modify the car. When you get into $35,000, $40,000, $45,000 cars like these, some of you might not want to cut it up, so the 275 is kind of a good place to be. If you want to go with a track stance, you can go with 18s to allow a taller sidewall, a cheaper tire choice, and more aggressive tire options. A square setup like an 18x10 all the way around with 275 35s is beloved by track day drivers because you can rotate the tires front to rear, and it gives you very neutral, predictable handling. On the other end, show cars might rock three-piece 20-inch wheels filling the arches to the brim. You could run like a 20x9.5 with a 15 offset, 20x11 with a 30 offset, a little bit of stretch, a little bit of camber. There you go. It's gonna look great. Just be ready to dodge potholes and deal with a little bit of rubbing. And of course, a firmer ride from those thinner sidewall tires. Let's talk wheel styling and brands. The F80 looks really good on like an absurd range of wheel designs. Really anything looks good. If you want lightweight performance on a budget, Apex like the EC7, the ARC8 are popular choices for track use. They're popular, they're affordable, they're light, and they're often seen on M3s that do racetrack duty. If you have a bit more to spend and you want some forged wheels, you guessed it, TE37. They're timeless six-spoke designs, JDM origin, but adored in all scenes. They look great on M3s, and they come in the right specs. You can also check out Advan GTs if you don't want something that's played out as TEs, which are forged. Clean five-spoke design suits the M4 perfectly. If you are balling out of control and you're like, yo, I just really want to spend 10 grand on a set of wheels, HRE makes some really nice stuff. They've got an entry-level flowform line that is more attainable and looks fantastic on these cars. And of course, you can always go with three-piece HREs, again, if you just like want to incinerate money. They make a really nice product. They're really expensive. Your choice. BBS is another classic here. The LM, the LMR, the FIR, and nothing says class like BBS. NK, you can go with NTO3s or RPF1s. Forgestar, if you want customizable offsets and something a little more readily available and affordable. Rotoform, if you want some trendy stance stuff. Avantgarde three-piece wheels, Heritage three-piece wheels, work wheels. Guys, you can't the wheels up on these. It's so easy. Everything looks good. Don't forget tires. The M3 is a performance machine, so please, when you go on our website, do not click that Lexani tire button on these. Lexanis are great, but they're not Michelin's, right? Pilot Sport 4S is probably the best tire for these. Continental Contact Sport 02s or Extreme Contact DWS 06 if you live somewhere it rains. Pilot Sport Cup 2s or Advan AO52s for track focused grip at the expense of faster wear. You can run R888s if you're making some power. I wouldn't run them on a road course. I'd run them on a drag car. You can go with a Beadlock 17 setup. You might have to trim your brakes a little bit, and you can go with some Mickey Thompsons. Again, guys, these are, there's just a lot of fitment options on these cars. People just do a lot with these cars. One consideration, if you live in a colder climate, a second set of wheels with winter tires can be wise. Yes, you can drive one in snow. I don't know why you would. The stability control is pretty adept, but don't expect miracles with 400 plus horsepower going to the rear in icy conditions. And of course, please put some snow tires on. Don't drive on cut twos in the winter. Fitment-wise, the goal for many is that flush look. The wheels sit just inside the fender line with minimal gap. The F80 can achieve this with no fender rolling if you choose the right offsets as mentioned. Typically, again, 20 to 25 up front, 9 to 10 inch width, and 35 to 45 out back with 10.5 to 11.5 inch width works nicely. When in doubt, again, we told you earlier in the video, 9.5, 22, 11.44. If you go aggressive, like a wider width or lower offset, you might need to add some camber, do some fender rolling, stretch the tires a little bit, especially to prevent rubbing on the inner fender liner or in the rear on that fender lip on big bumps. Many owners will also just space out the stock wheels, or if you have an aftermarket wheel, you want to go a little bit more conservative and then dial it in with a spacer so you don't have any rubbing issues. That's a great choice as well. Always ensure if you do run a spacer that you have enough thread engagement, or you can use extended lug bolts when adding spacers. Generally over 5 millimeters is where you want to use these, but that is not the gospel truth. 7 turns is, so make sure you have 7 turns on your lugs. In essence, part of the joy of owning an M3 or M4 is making it yours, and wheels are usually the first step. There's a reason that entire companies specialize in wheel and tire packages for you guys. The demand is huge for these cars and the results speak for themselves. We even have a gallery on our website where you can see what other F80 and F82 owners have run on your car. So if you pick one of these cars up, do yourself a favor, browse our gallery, get inspired, treat your ride to a new set of shoes. It is literally giving the whole car a new personality with a single mod. Plus, you will likely shed some unsprung weight if you choose a quality wheel, which improves ride and handling, form, and function in the same mod for not a lot of money. It's kind of a win-win. We touched on power mods earlier in the video, but let's compile the greatest hits of F80 and F82 modifications beyond just wheels and suspension, because you're probably going to do them anyway. The first bang for your buck mod, you want to do this right away, is an ECU tune. It's a remap of the engine computer. You can make 60 to 100 more horsepower out of the box, depending on fuel and aggressiveness of the tune. Tunes from Boot Mod or MHD are popular, and many offer off-the-shelf maps you can flash at home. Just make sure your battery is connected to a charger so you don't break your ECU. It's basically a software party trick. Little more boost, little more fuel, little more timing. Your M3 now makes a whole bunch more power over stock just with an email. Just make sure to use the right quality fuel and know that once you're tuned, you are taxing components a little bit harder, so stuff might break. Downpipes. The S55 turbo engine gains a lot from high flow or catless downpipes. Don't do this. Don't do catless. It's illegal.
Illegal only when police there. Police not there, Habibi, everything legal.
These reduce back pressure and let the turbo spool more freely. You'll not only get more power, especially when paired with the tune, but also a louder, raspier exhaust note. Some love it, some find it sounds like shit, because these cars kind of do. And yes, going catless is for off-road use only, so keep that in mind, but the performance uptick in the sound are undeniable. So it's kind of a nice trade-off. If you go with downpipes, you might want a quieter exhaust though. Intake and charge pipes, the stock intake is actually pretty good, but aftermarket intakes from even Churi, BMS, etc. can add a little bit of power and a lot of cool turbo noises. More critically, the charge pipes, the plastic pipes that carry boosted air from turbos to intercooler to engine, are known to be a weak link. They're plastic. These cars are 10 years old. They can get brittle and they can get cracked, especially if you're running higher boost pressure or if you live in a cold climate where plastic is going to expand and contract. Many owners preemptively replace them with aluminum or silicone charge pipes for peace of mind. It's pretty cheap. It avoids an annoying boost leak or the charge pipe exploding and getting sucked into your engine down the road. You should just do it. Intercooler wise, the S55 uses a water to air intercooler on the top of the engine, often called a charge cooler. In high boost or track conditions, the stock one will get heat soaked eventually, and there have been cases of the OEM intercooler leaking coolant internally. That is bad news, as it can send coolant into the engine in places there's not supposed to be coolant. Aftermarket charge coolers, CSF is kind of the gold standard here, offer better cooling and reliability if you're pushing big power or seeing heavy track use. It's a mod that's kind of more for people that are really making some jam, but it's worth mentioning. And again, they're not that expensive considering the price of your car. Exhaust-wise, who doesn't love a better sounding car? There's tons of catback exhaust systems for the F80 and F82. They range from relatively tame, just a bit more volume of stock, to full-on screamers that announce your presence miles away. Popular options, Akrapovic if you have deep pockets. They're beautiful exhaust, titanium craftsmanship and a rich sound, Valvetronic, Remus, Armytrix, and BMW's own M Performance exhaust. One cautionary note here, the S55 sounds like there's no way around it. It does not sound like an E90. It does not sound like an E46. They sound like garbage. So don't just go put the loudest straight pipe you can on these cars. You really want to pick the right exhaust that matches up to the downpipes that you're using. Watch a lot of sound clips before you buy. Don't just buy some $10,000 exhaust because it is a $10,000 exhaust. Really pick the right one. The other part on this is the exhaust tips. Buy carbon ones. It's really simple. Just buy carbon exhaust tips. They look good. Suspension mods, we talked about a lot before. To add, you can do some sway bars to reduce body roll if you need it. Camber arms and plates help with alignment for the track, and bushing upgrades like stiffer subframe bushings or diff bushings can tighten up feel at the cost of a little bit more NVH. The F80 has mostly solid mounted subframes from the factory, a lesson learned from the E90 generation, so it is already quite taut. However, there's always room for improvement. Cosmetic mods, we talked about the in-performance stuff earlier, but folks love carbon fiber everything. Mirror caps, hood vents, side grills, even full carbon fiber roofs. Some non-sunroof M4s have retrofit roof skins in carbon for looks if they didn't come with it out of the box. Also, there are lighting mods like Euro-style LCI facelift taillights if you have a pre-2016 car. The 16 Plus got super sexy looking OLED tails. There's also the option of retrofitting newer infotainment screens or Apple CarPlay units to modernize the cabin, which you might want to do if you have an older one. But let's keep our eyes on the prize. Performance and driving feel are the core of this car. So let's sum up the modification scene for the F8X chassis. It's vibrant, the community's huge, there are tons of forum threads, there's YouTube builds, there's Instagram posts, there's TikTok posts of people customizing their M3s and M4s. Whether you want to chase 9-second quarter-mile times, whether you want to build a showstopper on air ride with wide-body fenders, or you just want to personalize your car, do some simple tweaks for more flair and more fun on your commute to the office, the F82 and F80 will happily oblige. It's not, of course, all sunshines, puppies, and rainbows, though. It's time for a reality check. No car is perfect, and that includes the M3 and M4. If you're considering buying one, especially used, as all of them are now, and especially if they've been modified, you should know the quirks and issues so you're not caught off guard. Think of this as basically the fine print in your M3 ownership contract. The good news is that overall, the F80 has proven to be fairly reliable for a high-performance car. The S55 is about as stout as it's going to get. Many have logged big miles or big power or sometimes both without major drama, but there are some known weak points and a few maintenance considerations to take into account. The big one, the big scary one, the crank hub. You're going to see it come up anytime you mention these cars. The S55 engine's crank hub, which helps keep engine timing in sync, can in rare cases slip under high stress. When it slips, the engine timing can go off, leading to potential valve to piston contact. Basically, your engine's cooked, right? This tends to happen on almost exclusively on cars that are tuned or revved to the moon over and over again that are banging off limiter, but it's the sort of thing that does lurk in the back of owners' minds. BMW never officially recalled it since it's not particularly common on stock cars, but the aftermarket of course came up with a cure: upgraded keyed or pinned crank hubs that physically lock in place. Many owners who modify these for big power consider a crank hub as cheap insurance, although it is not exactly cheap. You're gonna spend about $3,000 at a shop if you do it, and don't do this at home, guys, just take it to a shop. If your car is stock or mildly tuned, odds are pretty good that you'll be fine, just be aware of it. If you're buying used, just make sure the previous owner addressed the crank hub, especially if the car has bolt-on mods or higher boost. Don't buy a modified car with a crank hub that's not pinned. Oil leaks and gaskets, it's BMW life. Even though the F80 is modern, it's still susceptible to some classic BMW leak spots. The valve cover gasket, the oil pan gasket may eventually seep oil, usually over 50,000 miles. The valve cover itself is plastic and can crack. It's not that common, but it's not unheard of. Also, the oil filter housing gasket can again leak. If you've got a BMW, you probably guess these are going to happen. If you spot oil residue around these areas, budget to just replace these gaskets. They're not super expensive, but labor can add up, especially since the oil pan on an M3 is a pretty involved job. Routine inspection during maintenance will catch these before they get out of hand, and always keep an eye on your oil level. The S55, being a kind of high-strung turbo car, consumes a little bit of oil by nature, and you don't want it to run low, as that's going to get a lot more expensive than just pouring a quart in. We mentioned the charge air cooler leaking issue, typically only if you run higher boost for a long time, but another related part of these cars is the plastic coolant expansion tank. There have been reports of the tank splitting at the seam, likely from repeated heat cycling and pressure over time. So if you open the hood and you see crusty coolant residue near the tank or a lake under your car, that's it's probably a sign to replace that. Replacements are cheap enough, and some aftermarket aluminum tanks do exist. The water pump on the S55 is electric and generally reliable, so you do get to avoid that belt-driven pump worry that you have on other ones, but sensors like coolant temperature can occasionally act up. Bottom line, the cooling system is not as big of an issue on this chassis as other generations, but you want to keep it in good shape, especially if you're tracking the car. It means fresh coolant, that might mean an upgraded heat exchanger if you hit the track often, and check those plastic bits and make sure that they're okay. The fuel system and carbon buildup, being direct injected, the S55 can get carbon buildup on the intake valves over high mileage. This can cause a rough idle, this can cause lost efficiency, this can cause all kinds of stuff that you just don't want to have to chase down. The remedy is periodic walnut blasting or chemical cleaning of the intake valves, perhaps every 40 to 60,000 miles. It's not unique to this car. Pretty much every modern direct injected car has this issue, but plan for it as a maintenance expense. Also, if you modify for power, keep an eye on spark plugs and coils. High boost loves fresh plugs. And yes, if you are running ethanol blends, you may need to change fuel filters at some point and ensure the high pressure fuel pump stays healthy. These are really not unique to this platform. Kind of the only unique thing here is going to be that crank hub, but there's a lot. Drivetrain and differential wise, the 7-speed DCT, just make sure you service it, fluid and filter changes. Even though BMW called it lifetime fluid, the more you modify your car, the harder you drive it, the more you're going to want to do this. Some DCT cars exhibit a little bit of low-speed jerkiness or lag when creeping. That's kind of normal behavior for these more like race-focused transmissions. They are automated manuals after all. The rear diff is an electronic active rear diff and it's generally stout. Just be aware a handful of owners did point out that the rear diff bushing, one in the rear, two in the front, allows a little bit of slop, wheel hopper movement when they're worn out, so you may want to change those out again. If you feel a clunk back there, it could be something rolling around in your trunk, but it's more likely that it's bushings. Upgraded poly or solid bushings are an option if you hit the track or drag race a lot, but they will add some noise, and stock ones typically last a pretty good while. Electronics-wise, actually the F80 is pretty solid electronically. It's not really an old European car, so you don't really have to worry as much. Fewer gadgets than today's cars mean less to break. You might run into typical stuff, a backup camera glitch here, a speaker rattle there, maybe an iDrive that needs a reboot once in a blue moon, but nothing really in particular that's alarming or expensive on the electronics front has surfaced as a pattern. The one electronic aid sometimes people do complain about is the rear tire pressure monitor sensor freaking out after doing burnouts or drifting. Basically, big shock, when you abuse a component, it breaks. But that's just the car kind of politely saying, hey bro, like chill out, you kind of drove a little too hard. In terms of maintenance costs, remember you were buying an almost supercar level BMW that cost about $100,000 brand new. No, it did not cost 40 brand new, it cost about 100 brand new. It's not as cheap to maintain as a Honda Civic, no surprise. Oil changes are 6.5 liters of high-grade synthetic. Brakes, especially carbon ceramics, are expensive. Tires, you will roast through rear tires quickly if you drive like the car begs to be driven, and those rears are like $400 each. Budget for those consumables. Out of warranty, find a good indie BMW specialist for labor. Don't take it to the dealer, they're gonna tax you. Reliability ratings of the M3 are not stellar on paper. Some sources give it below average reliability due to repair frequency and cost, but this is a sports car. So yes, when you compare it to a Camry, a lot of it is skewed really by the fact that the owners actually drive these cars, and some issues get recorded, and with proper care, regular fluid changes and preventative maintenance, the F80 can just simply go the distance. There's examples with over 100,000 miles still going strong, and while maybe you shouldn't buy one, it's nice to know that that can happen. And unlike older BMWs, you don't have to worry about the subframe cracking or the rod bearings failing or all of the BMW stuff that really happened to BMWs before this. The S55 is pretty robust, and many owners report years of joy with zero unscheduled trips to the shop beyond basic stuff that just kind of breaks when you drive a car the way it should be driven. So really just do your homework when you're buying one. Look for one with good service history that was not owned by some 19-year-old broccoli hair. Consider a pre-purchase inspection and probably avoid moderately modified ones, but heavily modified ones with a good mod sheet, with a good build sheet and all that stuff. You're probably pretty set and are getting a pretty good deal. So should you buy an M3 or an M4? We've been talking about both almost interchangeably because mechanically they are the same car. But you might be wondering, should I get a sedan or should I get a coupe? It's literally personal preference and what you do with the car. Looks wise, the M3 has kind of more of like a wide body vibe. It looks a little bigger and chunkier. The M4 is a sleeker coupe. Some love the rarity of the M3. They are a little bit more uncommon. They had a 2-year shorter production run than the M4. M4 continuing till 2020 as compared to 2018, including some special edition M4, so there are probably more of them out there. If you like being a little bit different, the M3 might appeal to you. If you want the classic 2-door sports car silhouette, the M4 is your pick. Really, the one you should pick is the best one you can buy, and you want to try to find an individual color if you can. Practicality-wise, obviously the M3's got 2 extra doors. If you have kids or you have friends, that's a godsend. Adults can actually sit in the back of an M3 pretty comfortably. It's a 3 Series underneath, after all. The M4's back seat is tighter and accessing it is less convenient, and again, do not stick a 6-foot adult male back there. Trunk space is fairly similar between the two, though the M4's rear seat can fold for a larger cargo pass-through, just like the sedans can. Interestingly, the M4 actually has a slightly larger trunk volume on paper since it's a 4-seater, not a 5. They do measure a little bit differently, but in the real world, it's a non-existent difference. Guys, they're the same cargo-wise. Driving feel-wise, here's a little secret I'm gonna let you in on. They drive the same. The coupe is not sportier, it's mostly psychological of being in a tighter cabin. BMW tuned the suspension of each to account for weight differences, so the M3 does carry an extra 50 pounds, most of it in the rear doors, but they adjusted for that so the balance is exactly the same, and you're driving a 400 plus horsepower car, 50 pounds is irrelevant. If anything, some say the M3 might be fractionally more tail happy, given a little bit more weight at the back and a longer wheelbase, but you would literally need to put the Stig behind the wheel to be able to tell. Both have the same wheelbase at the end of the day, the same chassis stiffness. The M4 might be a hair stiffer due to fewer openings, and the same drivetrain, so drive both if you can, but choose with your heart here, or if you want resale, choose the individual color manual of the sedan, probably. The F80 M3 being made for only about 4 years and limited in 2018 production due to no 2019 model year could mean it holds value well. Enthusiasts do love a four-door M car. It harkens back to the E39 M5 vibes of a stealth performance sedan. The M4, while more common, had cool special editions like the M4 GTS with factory water injection. What a stupid idea that was. And the CS, if you can snag a CS model of either, that is a treat. They do have extra goodies. They're a little bit more collectible. There were only 1,200 M3 CS made worldwide compared to standard production being considerably higher. Generally, both the M3 and the M4 are past the steepest part of the depreciation curve and could potentially appreciate as next generations move to heavier or all-wheel drive platforms. Plus, people don't like the way the G80 looks, so there you go. People are huge fans of the F80 styling. So when you compare it to the giant nostrils of the new M3, M4, they are in demand as a result of that, despite the G80 having a much better power plant. In summary, you really can't go wrong if you need 4 doors. M3, if you want a sunroof, only the M4 had a sunroof option. The M3 was a carbon roof only. You want a vert, that's the F83 M4. Don't buy a vert. The drop top's a lot heavier. It's like nearly 4,000 pounds. It doesn't handle as well. It's less rigid. Go buy a 6 Series if you want a vert. It's just a cruiser, so we're really not even going to talk about it. Whichever you choose, you're in for an absolute treat. All right, so you've been watching for like probably 40 minutes or something at this point. What's the verdict? Should you buy one? Well, yeah, you should. Why though? It's one of the most exhilarating, well-rounded performance cars that you can get your hands on. Think about what you're getting. It's a twin-turbo missile. It can embarrass supercars of even today in a straight line. It's a precision instrument that can carve up a track or a canyon road with ease. It's a luxury German automobile with all of the comfort and tech you need for daily life that you'd expect in a $100,000 BMW in one package. It's the Jekyll and Hyde of cars. It's savage when you want it. It's civilized when you need it. There's few cars that manage that as well as the M3 and M4. The E90 was great, but it guzzled gas and lacked torque and had a lot of rod-bearing issues. The newer G80 is wildly capable, but it's larger, heavier, stylistically divisive, shall we say, and still expensive. The F80 hits a sweet spot. It's modern, it's tunable, it's nimble, it's analog. It's the last M3, M4 with dual clutch. The new ones have a torque converter auto, and many will tell you the DCT's rapid fire shifts are more engaging. Plus, if you find a manual, you can row your own gears, and that alone makes it pretty special. In an era where manuals are an endangered species, you probably want to pick one up. On the fun side, owning one means joining a passionate community. There's a huge enthusiast network for these cars, from forums to Facebook groups to local groups. People swap tips on everything, from the best brake pads to how to code in a custom startup logo on iDrive. You'll never be short of inspiration for how to modify one of these cars. And driving it, well, driving an F80 is just an occasion every time. Even if you are only headed to work, it has that sense of occasion. The cold start will clear your groggy morning head. Your neighbors might be a little bit less thrilled, but every on-ramp is an excuse to drop a couple gears or just mash the throttle in a single gear thanks to all the torque that these cars have, and experience a burst of acceleration that leaves you giggling every single time. Every empty parking lot after a rainstorm becomes temptation for a little slide with DSC off, and obviously permission from the property owner, right? And yet, in traffic or a long cruise, you've got heated seats, a Harman Kardon sound system if optioned, adaptive cruise control if you want to use it, and reasonable fuel economy and ride quality. Yes, if you keep your foot out of it, the Turbo 6 can sip moderately. Highway cruising, you can get into the mid-20s miles per gallon, which is not bad considering the performance of these cars. Let's not forget the intangibles. The M3 has heritage. It's the 5th generation of a lineage that began with the E30 M3 in the 1980s. By buying one, you're not just getting a car, you're becoming a part of a motorsport-infused legacy of driving excellence. The F80 took that legacy and pushed it into the modern turbocharged era, successfully silencing the doubters, the haters, the purists, once they drove it. It's a car that was praised in its time and is aging gracefully into a modern classic, and as used buys go, they're still expensive, but you're getting a ton of car for your money. And unlike many sports cars, you don't have to compromise. You've got practicality, you've got some degree of comfort, you've got performance, you've got reliability, you've got affordability, all in one package. Finally, if you do take the plunge, promise me one thing, make it yours. Whether that's through modifying it or just how you drive it or the color combination that you pick, enjoy the car to its fullest. Take it to a track day, it deserves one, and feel the balance at 10/10. Do a smoky burnout just once, tires ain't cheap, and if you buy new ones, buy them from us. Go for a midnight drive on your favorite back road with your friends, and definitely personalize the car. Maybe start with a set of wheels, right? You know, where could you get those? We at 3Piece literally live for getting you guys the perfect wheel, tire, and suspension combo for your car. It's kind of what we do. So when you get your F80, hit us up. We're gonna dial in that fitment for you, and we're gonna have your ride looking 100%, because an F80 with the wrong wheels is like a great burger with no sauce. It's just not complete. Thank you all so much for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please drop a like, drop a comment, subscribe. Let us know what car we should cover in the next one, and I'll see you soon.